Danny Donachie with us today on the podcast for Raise the Floor. So I've worked with you for, I think it's about 3 years now.
Really?
Yeah, both for work and like me personally as well. And one of the hardest things when getting you on was describing what you actually do. And I was glad to see that last week someone else, one of your other clients, said, I don't actually know what Danny does, but it works, so I can't be the only one. So rather than me fumble my way through it, can you tell us definitively what it is you do?
I don't know. I think I'll lose some of the mystique then.
Yeah, like James Bond.
It's probably not very good marketing, is it? I see this guy, or maybe it is good marketing.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
So what do I do? Yeah, I don't know. We were speaking about podcasts earlier and how everyone's got an amazing story. I guess like I see what I do as like a huge privilege because I get to meet amazing people and I hear their stories. And what I do is I kind of try and help them see the things beneath the story that might be holding them back, I guess, and understand themselves a little bit better. But the beauty of it is in doing what I do, I get to understand myself better as well because like it always reflects back on me.
Yeah, I think that, I think you're being a bit modest there as well. I think the important bit for that me is like you make people better. I think we'll go into some of like what your practices or what you do in a bit more detail, but I think that it's allowing people a safe space to sort of tell you everything, and then you pick out little bits where you can see they need work or they need to develop themselves.
Yeah, I think
right.
So it's about that safe space and bringing that bit out. But I'm also very, very clear that life is very precious, and like we all hold ourselves back in different ways, don't we?
Yeah.
So it's about like looking at those ways and then thinking, right, how can we help this person get more out of themselves? Because we're only here for a short time, and every moment is precious. I read a quote this week, and it said, everything that you do in life is, the value of it is how much of your life you're prepared to give to it. So really think about what you're giving your life to.
Yeah.
And it's so important. And before you ask me the next question, so like a lot of my clients, I'm lucky to work with some amazing people, very successful in different ways, but you're my most coachable client. So some clients I'll say, right, go and try this or try this. Literally before you even left my door, you're like, right, I've done it.
Yeah, get it out early. Yeah. I think that I think from a business owner perspective, I think that it's not often I get challenged every day in work, but it's not, you lose that authority of someone to be coached with. And like I find myself with like I try and do a lot of coaching, but then there was that gap until I probably started working with you to say, no one's giving me homework. And so when you do, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, this is stuff that I need to work on. So like it's a real high priority, I think, for me.
Yeah, and what I really have come to value more and more is my role of being like an external person. And even I do some work at Burnley. I'm in there 2 days a week, and it's so important that I'm part-time and only in there a short part of the time. Yeah. Because if I was in full-time, you just become part of the dynamic. Yeah. And you lose the ability to see what's going on more clearly. And it's such a privilege to be on, like, you know, like how I work with you on the outside, and because you see things in a different way. And I think people underestimate the importance of that, like, you know, other business leaders and even players and stuff. I really appreciate the value of that.
Yeah, I think that objectivity for me is huge for me, because I think you, as a business owner, you have to be so like convinced in your ideas, and just having that someone to say, well, have you thought about it this way? Or you probably, one of the good things you've done with me is sort of like where are your blind spots? Like try to be aware of where you think you need work, or where I think I need work. Yeah,
because it's impossible to see your own blind spots by the nature of them being blind spots.
Yeah.
And we're all driven hugely by the unconscious, whether we realise it or not. And that, you know, through all of the things that I've learned over the years, it just dawned on me more and more that like there's this power within us that holds us back and drives the way we behave. I'm resisting. I've got a question I want to ask you, and I'm resisting it, but I'm just going to ask it.
Go on.
So the reason you're doing this podcast is because you read the book To Do Hard Things, and you felt like this was a hard thing to do out of your comfort zone. Yeah. How are you feeling now in this moment?
I still think it's hard. So like last night was hard knowing I've got to come and do it. It was easier this time than the first one I did.
Okay.
But also like I'm proud that I've done it because it is hard and just to put yourself out there, I guess, like and say I've done something creative, which I see this as being a creative thing, and you know it could be crap. So and I'd probably be the first person to tell someone if it was crap. So I'll accept that if anyone else. But I think it'll be down to the guests that I bring on. And Claire was really good last week. I think there'll be loads of people can learn from you. So it'll just be the job of getting it done. But yeah, I feel more confident now, and I'm glad I've done it.
Good.
And also then I think I can turn around to saying to people, which I've already used it in a management meeting, to say like, this was a hard thing to do, and I've done it to show everyone that like you should do hard things. And there's a sense of freedom from doing that hard thing.
Yeah. I think in terms of my work, I think the greatest learning that I've ever had is doing the hardest thing that I had to do, which was public speaking.
Yeah.
And
so tell us about that, because that's a good story. So tell us about that.
Well, where did it start? So it started when I was 11. I think 10 or 11 anyway. So we lived in America. We came back to the UK. And because I had an American accent, I was only in school for like a term because I had this American accent and was like this cool kid from America. They made me head boy.
Right.
And even the headmaster said, this was a bad decision. It should have been the assistant head boy, not you.
Oh,
to
no.
me. I'm like, all right, cheers.
Full confidence.
Yeah. But anyway, I had to go on stage, and I think it was like singing carols or do a speech or something, and I hadn't prepared at all, which you won't be surprised about. But it was a disaster. Like I just felt like I froze, and it was a really like awful experience. At that age, it was like a very emotional, like I froze, and it was very difficult.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I made it my life's mission to avoid public speaking at all costs, at any cost. And even like, so I remember I went for a university interview at Newcastle Uni.
Yeah.
And I got into the building and there was loads of people there. And I remember they said to me, oh, it's a panel interview. There'll be 3 people on the panel, 3. I absolutely wet my pants. And I said, oh, I need the toilet. Went into the toilet and then
jumps out the window.
Out, more or less, yeah. Out the back door to avoid it.
Wow.
So I spent all of that time avoiding it. And I was kind of aware of it, but I managed to do all right in life.
Yeah, without doing it.
Yeah. But then at a point, it dawned on me more and more. So even when I was at Everton, I recognised that it was like my biggest fear. Well, there was 2. There was the biggest fear, and also the belief that I couldn't sing. That's a different story. But the biggest fear was public speaking. So even when I was at Everton, I went on a couple of public speaking courses, which sort of helped and broke the ice a little bit. But then when I left Everton, I wanted to. The thing that was driving me the most was fear. So I didn't want to. I'd had a bad experience at Everton.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go back into that experience again. So that was driving me. So I was like, right, you need to make this work. And part of that I knew would be public speaking. So like even this, I would have been scared to death of this years ago. So somebody asked me to speak at FIFA. It was the first one in Japan. And it was in front of like these legends of football. Tim Cahill, who I know, but like absolute legends. Falcao, Arsene Wenger, all these people. And when she asked me, I knew, I was like, yes, a definite yes. Like, I knew it was the thing, and I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. I was like, yes, I'll do it. So for about a month before that, I practiced visualization before I went to sleep. I practiced feeling the feeling of what I wanted to when I got there. But even flying into Japan, I'm like, this could go any way. Like, I've got no idea how this is going to go. But I literally did it every night for a month. And then
what were you doing though? What was that you were doing?
So there's a guy called Neville Goddard who I think he lived in like the 50s, 60s, and he's got this practice. It's about visualization, but it's more about the feeling of what you want to have. So every night before sleep, I would imagine that I was in this room. I'd even looked at the room, so I knew what it'd be like, with all of these famous people who I was intimidated by. But I wanted to have a real feeling of presence and calm and peace, and as if I was actually enjoying this daunting experience. So I did it every night, and I didn't know if it would work, obviously. So I got there, and it happened just exactly how I'd imagined it, and with that same feeling
all the way through it.
Yeah. I didn't feel so my aim at the start wasn't to be able to public speak and kind of get through the fear. My aim was to be able to public speak and be as comfortable as we are here now. And it kind of happened, and that obviously gave me a little bit of confidence. Like, you get the feedback from the external world, and then I ended up doing more and more and more, and now I'd say it's one of the things that I love. And it's pretty crazy how you can go from like complete avoidance to something that you love. And
was that kind of proof for you that doing those hard things, like, is you need those things that you find hard is the stuff that you need to do?
100%. It's the best thing I've ever done. Like, even before that, I'd meditated for, I don't know, 40 years, 30 years, something like that. So I'd got a level of inner peace, but I was still avoiding this one thing. And like, just by doing it and being able to do that, it gave me such a sense of freedom. And now, like, I encourage anyone, if you've got a fear like this, definitely do it. And it's about taking the first step, whatever that step is, and then doing the practices like I was talking about as well. And
did you feel that if you done meditation for that long, did that not help you get that inner peace of when you were doing something hard, or is it not?
I'm not so sure it translated so much,
Right.
And this is a thing, like, even with footballers, for example. So I can teach them to meditate and do breath work off the pitch, and they can be blissful in the session that we're doing. But then they go onto the field and it's completely different. It's a different context. So like in a football game, it's complete chaos. So it doesn't always translate. Maybe it helped me, but it definitely helps me in other ways anyway. I'm not dissing meditation. I know what you're doing.
As a practitioner of it. And what would you say it's more about being present, and that was the thing that was the visualization about being present and understanding that feeling? Or
I think it allows you to be present, because obviously before that I was fight or flight. I was flight or freeze, and then I'd often be frozen in those situations, so I couldn't be myself. So there's that part. It allows you not to be in that state, and it allows you to be present. But it's also about just being able to feel that fear and then step beyond it.
What do you think stops most people when approaching something they're scared of? Is there a common...
It's the feeling. And, for footballers, people think being a footballer is a great life and all of that, but most of them have this fear before a game. And even a few days before a game, they start to feel this fear. Tim Howard, he spoke about it on my podcast. He said, like, you play a game on a Saturday, you get this relief if you win the game. Then on a Sunday morning, you're thinking, oh, I'm playing Chelsea next Saturday. And your brain starts to get you there, and you're in this zone of fear again. So everybody has these things, but you can kind of put yourself in a cocoon where you're not facing your own individual fear.
And I was listening, it was on Do Hard Things, the book, that they were saying that you use distraction at the first point of being scared or fear, like distractions that go to, especially with phones, and it's about having that peace within yourself and being comfortable in your body. Is that something that would help help mitigate the fear or putting that off?
Being
comfortable, yeah. So one of the exercises he advises is just sitting in silence for 5 minutes and building that up, and understanding that you want to get your phone because you're thinking a certain thought.
Yeah.
But then battling to be comfortable, being bored, and being comfortable in your own mind, I think is what he says.
Yeah. So obviously, like even for people to be comfortable in their own mind when there's no fear is difficult these days.
Yeah.
And I was in the gym yesterday morning at 7:00, and I was surrounded by like men, like doing the gym, getting themselves strong and fit, which is a good thing, which I do and love. But I was just thinking, how many of these men are doing things like meditation? How many of these men are sitting for 5 minutes still without anything? Yeah. So that's without fear in your mind. Yeah. So imagine, like, when there's fear in your mind, it's even more difficult not to go to that distraction. And it's not only phones, whatever, nicotine, smoking, gambling, alcohol. Alcohol's a big one. It's kind of socially accepted.
Yeah.
And it's another way for people to lose that presence.
And why is the presence so important? Why is being present so important?
Because when you are fully present, like in any circumstance, there's a peace, and it's so simple. It's ridiculously simple. People miss it. You think you have to do these special practices or something like that. You don't. If you're present, which means being in your body in the moment, there's a deep peace, and it's always there, and it's always available. And I think people are striving for this thing, but looking in the wrong direction, looking outside, like new car, new house, bigger business.
So like of the business owners I know or have listened to, or I don't know if it's the same with athletes as well, but they all want to strive towards like being freedom. So they want freedom to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
But one of the things, like we spoke about this, like they can have that now, I guess. And is that what presence is? It's that feeling that they're chasing, but they're just attaching it to selling the business or having a bigger house or
100%. And it doesn't mean that you have to go and sit in the cave and meditate all day.
Yeah.
And one of the best examples, living examples of this that I've seen is Sadhguru, the Indian guru guy who I've took into Everton.
Yeah.
He does more in life than anyone I've ever seen, but he's got this presence. If you meet him, you're like, oh my God, like he's different. The guy's different. And I'm lucky enough to work with a lot of people who have achieved a lot in terms of the material world. And I've worked with a lot of business people who've sold the business for a lot of money, thinking that that's going to solve the problems. It's going to solve the unease that's inside them. It never is. It never is. But it's a good thing that you get to that point and get all this money, because then you know. Whereas people who haven't got all this money, it's always like tantalizing. If I just had won the lottery,
But it's never about about that.
No, never.
So what can people do? Like, well, how do people start like being present?
There's so many ways.
What's the best way?
How can I get it now? The bad news is it needs to be consistent practice. I've said it before that I meditated for about 25 years, maybe longer, twice a day, every day, consistently, until something happened and something shifted in me. So that's not great marketing either. However, some people that I work with, like, because their mind is so difficult to kind of tame, the mind is so active, even a slight shift and one small step can make a big difference. Even one little taste, one little experience of pure presence and awareness, it can make a big change. There's so many ways, but there's two basic things that are in the present moment, and one is the body. And most people aren't in touch with their body at all because they spend all their life in their heads. And the second is the breath, and the breath is the thing that connects the body to the spirit. And if you just notice the breath, it will show you everything about you in that moment. Like if you're in a deep, relaxed state, you'll feel the breath. And the more that you notice it, simply notice it, the more present you become. But this body is the thing to hook your attention into to get you more present and just take it out of the constant loop of thinking.
So if someone's finding that difficult to start doing breath work, something that you've done with us was, as a group exercise, was we talked gibberish for a minute, I think. Which is hilarious as a group of people. But is that just a way to try and, is that a stepping stone to, what was the purpose of doing the gibberish?
I forgot we did that, actually. Yeah, it's so good. I learned that from Sadhguru. I went on, what was it? It was one of his retreats anyway, but I remember it was in the big space in his ashram, and there was 1,000 people there doing gibberish. And I think he got us to do it for maybe 1 minute or 3 minutes, and then he stopped. He said, right, that's not intense enough. Do it again for 3 more minutes. And then he stopped again and said, that's not intense enough. 3 more minutes. And at the end of it, I realized that there was complete peace and stillness. And the reason is because normally we're in this pattern of thinking, repetitive thinking and thoughts, and it's in the prefrontal cortex. And the gibberish just takes you out of it. It confuses your brain, and it takes you out of it, and it gives you a few moments in the present. And there's many ways you can do that. I was in the ice bath this morning for 10 minutes, and it gives you that. It automatically stops the noise in the mind, because the water's so cold, it demands your attention. And it brings your attention into the body.
And is that what meditation does when you've done it well?
Yeah.
I think that one of the, I don't know whether it's a preconception of people who don't meditate, but is that they can't understand that they're going to have thoughts in that time. So when they start meditating, because I've done it, start meditating, we've got the shopping to do. And then you just go, but it's not about getting rid of that, is it? It's about just bringing yourself back in. Yeah, so it's training that muscle of bringing your attention back into the moment. And the more you can do that, the stronger that muscle gets. But it's also about recognizing and noticing more the space between the thoughts, because there's always space between the thoughts. And it's in that space that the peace is. But it's not only about, like I've said, sitting in a cave meditating. It's about bringing that awareness into daily life as well. So I encourage all footballers that I work with to bring that presence into games. Yeah. Because that's when you can fully enjoy and be present and be attentive in the game. And describe what flow state is, and is that when flow state would happen?
Yeah, that is flow state. And the theory behind flow state is that you have to kind of challenge yourself and be at a certain state to be fully present, like in a football match, for example. Yeah. But that's not true. You can be in flow state in any moment. It's just about training your attention to be fully present.
And and meditation be a way to, if you train at meditation, then you become more natural in everyday life?
It kind of gives you a foundation, but you then have to bring it into your life. So I started many years ago, but I worked at Everton at the time, and I thought, right, what is one activity in my life that I'm doing every day that I can get super, super present in? And I realized that I was spending like an hour and a half in the car every day. So the first day I was like, right, I'm going to be really present. So I'm sitting in the car, and for about a minute I'm really present, and then my mind goes off. I'm thinking, what's going to happen today, what happened yesterday, what we're going to have for lunch, all of that. The second day it was maybe like 2 minutes. I was really present, and before you know it, I'm the whole 45-minute journey fully there. And most people say, when I give them this challenge, like, okay, so there's no music and nothing like that. No, there's music, because there's always sound in life. But it's about hearing the music and feeling the music and feeling the impact that has on your whole body and mind.
And then through those practices, the purpose is that you become that state more often in your work life or games or in difficult situations.
So it becomes automatic then. Because you have to train it using your conscious mind, but then it becomes unconscious. And every time you get in the car, unconsciously there's that trigger, like, I'm going to be present now. And for a player, every time you step onto the training pitch, you're going to be present now, rather than thinking about, I'm going to get in the team, what's the manager said, all this nonsense.
Is it difficult to sell these ideas to players more than, or I guess like elite performers, whether that's business people or or athletes? Are they more in tune to this type of stuff?
I think they're more in tune. And the thing about players and athletes is that like they want to get better. So everything that they do is about getting better. And I feel like we've kind of reached the physical limit now.
Yeah.
Not limit, but they're not going to get way better.
Yeah.
Footballers, the speed and pace and everything is so fast now. It's not going to get much better. And there's a huge gulf in terms of presence and attention and mind that they can get better at. So I feel like they're more and more open to it.
And what do you think about like society in general? Is that?
Yeah, I think it's the same. I feel like society generally, there's an epidemic of anxiety, depression, miserableness, and we're richer, more comfortable than we've ever been. So I feel like it's kind of, people are getting more and more desperate through suffering, which is a good thing.
How?
Because without that suffering, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's forcing you, just like when I left Everton, life forced me to do hard things.
Yeah.
So you get to a certain point of suffering and depression, you think, right, I need to do something to get out of it. And the only thing to do to get out of it is to be more present, one way or the other.
And do you think being present, like the term being present, that is so many different things? Like it's not just. I'm trying to relate to someone who might be in that position now where they are feeling that depression, and in like the most simplest of terms, what is being present? Like, what is it?
Like, it's hard. Like, if we're talking about someone who's depressed, obviously there's clinical depression, and they need like expert help to get out of that. And usually when people are depressed, they are kind of stuck and static and motionless. So I'm not suggesting that if they're depressed, they just be present and they'll get out of it.
Yeah.
If you're depressed, you need expert help, but also generally you need movement. You need, and I don't mean just physical movement.
Yeah.
I mean like some sort of action to start to get out of it, and a step to get out of it. So athletes, for example, my dad said when he was a young player at City, they'd be running around the track every Monday, and occasionally in games, and he'd feel it that somehow he just lost a sense of himself, and he felt completely free and happy and blissful, even while he was running or in the game. And that is the flow state thing, and that is being present thing, and it happens naturally. So a lot of players always feel that, not always, feel that occasion.
Yeah.
I always ask them, what are you thinking when you're performing at your best? And all of them always say nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. That's flow state. So you can, like, life can force you into being more present in different ways. And I think that's why athletes enjoy the sport that they do, because it allows them to be present, and it's their job.
And I guess it's the same for, just try to relate that to say, you always hear actors say the best part of acting is being in front of the camera, but then the promotion and everything around it is the bit that they despise.
Yeah.
But when they're in that moment, that's where they feel free.
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly. I read another quote, and it was by a Zen teacher, and he said 99% of the thoughts that we have are self-centered. So being an actor, being in front of the camera, it allows you to escape that self-centeredness for however long you're acting, and that's the beauty of it, and that's the beauty of anything that we do in life.
Going back to you, because your dad has had a massive influence on you, obviously, growing up. Tell us a bit about you told me some of them, so I know some of the great stories you've got on like how forward thinking your dad was in an age where like meditation was probably laughed at, I'd guess, especially in football.
Yeah, well, I even laughed at it, and I found it hard. He started with me and my sister when we were young. Like, I was probably about 5, my sister was 3. And I'll never forget, he got us sitting on the piano stool, and he'd just like get you to be more aware of your body, and we'd just be bursting out laughing. I'm like, what are you talking about, Dad? Then when I was a bit older, he would do it when he was coach of Oldham and City and Everton. He'd do it with the team, and I'd be there, And like he'd get them all to sit either in a circle or in. I remember once being in the stand at Oldham. They're all sat there, and he'd say, "Right, like close your eyes." I'd just be there, like dying, like looking around, thinking they think my dad's the right weird, and they probably did. But now, a lot of them like will message me, or when I see them, they'll say, "Oh, he was amazing, like way ahead of his time," and I learned so much from him. But it wasn't only meditation. He would, like I say, most top athletes and performers will do anything that they can to get better, and my dad kind of taught me that. So we had people staying at the house all of the time. There was this guy who was a movement expert, and he was called Lenny Heppel, and him and his wife were world champion ballroom dancers. But he used to come and stay at the house maybe twice a year, and he'd stay for a week, and he'd go in and work at the club that my dad was at, and he'd do these movement things with him. But he did a lot with me as well, so my dad like tried to get him to help me. And he so one thing that he did, he worked with a lot of tennis players as well. So he would plant tennis balls in our house, and he said that every time, if I was just walking through the house, every time I saw a tennis ball, I had to move like this, move fast for a few yards. And it's just like training to be present, actually.
Yeah.
But also like about reacting and fast and trying to get you moving faster.
And were you playing football at this time? Is that why?
Yeah. Because I think my dad was a top player, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think maybe he wasn't the fastest. So Lenny helped him a lot as a player, and I wasn't the fastest either. So it helped me a lot.
And what tell us a little bit about your career then, so how it went from you were a footballer to ending up in like medical from Everton.
Yeah, so when I was young, I loved football. I say to my kids I was just kicking the ball against the wall all day, every day, and they don't believe me, but it's true. And I just wanted to be like my dad, obviously. And when I was young, I didn't grow till I was late. So I was in academies and stuff like that, which I loved. And technically I was okay. But physically I was way behind. And then all of a sudden, when I was about 19, 20 maybe, I went to America for a summer. I think I played in the World Student Games in America, and I came back and suddenly I'd grown and I was strong and like strong enough.
Yeah.
Like completely changed. I was old. And at that point, I signed for Carlisle and was a professional there for a year. But I dislocated one of my ankles and broke my other ankle. And I'd never been injured before that point. So I remember the day I got the second injury, I got the scan and my leg was in a plaster. I lay on my bed and cried for a full day because I knew that was my biggest dream and it was over. However, even when I was at Carlisle, there was a monastery near Carlisle, and I wrote to the abbot of the monastery, who was a famous monk at the time, and I said to him, I'm unsure about being a footballer. Should I be a footballer or a monk? And he said, you should be a footballer, luckily.
Right. Why did he say that?
I think because that was my path, and that was what I was doing, and where you are, you should be, wherever you are. Like being a monk isn't for everyone, and I'm grateful that I didn't do that because I feel like I'm happy now, like living a full life and impacting people in the way that I do.
What do you think interested you about being a monk?
I was just always interested in that. I think my dad obviously meditated and read books and gave me books about all the Indian yogis, and there's a book called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, and that's the book that Steve Jobs carried with him his whole life, and on his deathbed he had it next to him.
Really?
Yeah, because he went to India after uni and he was looking for like a guru or something like that, and that book, it's about a young yogi traveling around the Himalayas, meeting all these amazing people, these extraordinary capacities, and that just like opened my imagination, and I was like, oh wow, I need to do this.
But like, that's what you do now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're an urban monk.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Well, at Everton they used to call me guru.
Guru.
I'm not a guru, but that was what they called me. But yeah, that like really lit up my imagination. There was something about that really entranced me. And if at the time I'd found a place in the Himalayas that I could have, that I knew was a good place, I would have gone 100%.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about them then. There's probably one now that I've kind of heard about, but it's hard to find, that I would maybe in my next lifetime.
Well, what is that? What's that place?
It's like a special ashram for like advanced yogis.
Right.
And you have to go there for 7 years.
Wow.
And then you come out and you do whatever you do in the world. The yoga system now, there's 2 or 3 most famous yogas. One is Ashtanga, one is Iyengar. And their teacher was called Krishnamacharya. And he was about 60, I think. And he'd had like his family life. And his guru said to him, right, now you need to go to the ashram. And at 60, went to the ashram for 8 years. And then came out and started teaching this yoga. And now there's millions and millions and millions of people doing this yoga because of him. So maybe there's still time for me.
Yeah,
who knows?
What do you think your wife will say?
Probably be happy.
Get over there. How did you? So, from losing what was your dream at the time, how did you turn that into a strength? That setback.
It took me a long time, to be honest, and it was only I only feel like I've kind of found my path within the last 3 or 4 years. Like I had a great life working at Everton and other clubs, and like I love working with players, but I was still like in the medical area, and I never felt connected to that. I never felt it was part of me. So I feel like I never really dealt with that trauma of losing that part of myself. And until probably around 5 years ago, I used to dream about football every night.
Yeah.
And my anxiety dream is always, I've not had it for a while, it's always being in a dressing room before a game. And then I look down and I've got no socks on, or I've got no boots, or my boots have got no studs. And then I'm like, oh no.
Can't play.
Yeah. That's always my dream. So that obviously had a deep imprint on my subconscious. But now it's kind of gone away, I guess. I don't know, with meditation and stuff.
So what would your advice be to someone who has had a setback, and how do they turn that into a part of the journey?
I think you need to approach it and speak to somebody about it. At the time when it happened to me, like, there was no one that I knew that you could speak about, you know, your trauma and stuff like that. So you have to move towards it and really work with it and allow yourself to process it fully. That's the key, because there's parts of it that are held in the unconscious, and it's approaching those parts, and that allows you to move forward in a quicker way, because it took me so long.
And that it can be difficult, can't it, to do that, like upsetting and
totally, yeah,
traumatic in itself,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, you have to deal with it. And like I say, like, I cried for that whole day, and I feel like that was part of the grieving process, and I'm glad that I was able to do that.
Yeah,
because there was a deep knowing somehow that was what my big dream was, and I knew in that moment it was over. And yeah, it took me a long time to find.
Do you believe that was all part of what should have happened to you?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah, because I can empathise so well with footballers now who I work with who have been injured and have got this fear, that the existential fear that their career may be over tomorrow. And that's the reality of football. The thing about my injury was that at the time they didn't really know anything about it, whereas now I've worked with many players who've had the same injury and they get the surgery and they're back fine. So, you know, we've advanced in many ways, and I'm sure we will continue to do so.
Just on footballers, because I think I find it like a really, one, because I like football, but such a like peculiar career, isn't it? Because it's so high intensity for a short period of time. Like a lot of them after 30, that's kind of the need, kind of over.
Yeah.
And how do you give them the tools to be able to cope with that?
Yeah, I mean, it is really difficult. I think it's kind of getting better now because there's more awareness of it and people are more open to talking about it sooner, but it's still a huge problem. And you say at 30, like 30 used to always be the age. Like I remember working with David Weir at Everton, and I knew David because we played in that World Student Games together.
Yeah.
So we're great friends, and he's a great guy. And he hit 30, and I'll never forget. We were playing Arsenal, and he was marking Thierry Henry the next week, and he had so much doubt in his mind because he'd hit this magical 30 mark, and it was like, oh, am I still capable of doing it? And like nothing had changed. He just hit this age, but it was such a big age in football. Like once you hit 30, people doubt it. They don't give you long contracts. They say like you might be around a few more years, whatever. And then the next stage is 35 because that's when the footballer's pension comes in, and most of them were trying to desperately get that far. There. Whereas now most of them, like the top ones, don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But the harder thing now is that age 30, I feel like it's got less.
Yeah.
You know, there's players now, like top players now at 27.
Yeah.
Teams not buying them.
Well, if you look at some of the players that come through for England, you know, like Raheem Sterling, he's still really young.
Yeah.
And he's to talk about him being retired. It's madness.
Yeah. And no one will buy him either. Because they only buy young players. So the pressure, like it's getting more and more and more. And the players who play, like there's so many young players now getting into the teams and stuff like that, which is great. But it's a challenge.
It's not sustainable as well, is it, for football to keep like more games, more intensity, more tournaments, like long term?
I hate it. There's one player that I work with, a Premier League player. This summer, he had a proper summer, like 4 or 5 weeks off.
Yeah. And
I know that he's going to be way better this season because he's not had that for 4 or 5 years. And most of the top players never have that.
Yeah.
And it's like physically it's hard, obviously, but more psychologically, it's so demanding. There's so much research about identity, and if your identity is fixed in one thing, like I am a footballer, you can't have a happy life. And when you are a footballer, a top footballer, it's virtually impossible not to have that because you're playing every 3 days and your schedule is so rigid and fixed that you're constantly thinking about football. It's really difficult. There's one player last season who I worked with, and I said to him, right, what do you love doing? And other than football? And he's a young player, this guy, and he's like, no idea.
And he just never been allowed to experience anything else?
No, nothing. No idea. So I managed to persuade him to be so risky and have a game of paddle.
Wow.
But like it's hard to do that even.
Yeah, because where'd you do it?
You're supposed to recover. You train and you're supposed to lie in your house all day doing nothing, or have these stupid leg things on, or ice, whatever. We've conditioned them to be like
robots.
Yeah.
But is that where your work lies? Is to make them know that they're not?
Hopefully, yeah, because they're not at all. Like there's part of them that isn't this physical being, isn't this mental being,
or also not that identity. They're not a footballer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And at some point, if they just believe they're a footballer, it's going to completely come crashing down.
And I guess is that the same for like business owners as well? Is that
definitely
that identity?
Yeah.
Because so much of their life is you build it up yourself, don't you? Like you have to become this person for everyone else, and then ultimately you're not that. You're not the business owner, are you? You're just a person as well.
Yeah. So you create that identity. You are this person for everybody else, but then everybody else, all your employees, see you in that way and feed into that as well. So it's even more difficult not to buy into it and believe it. And it's the same for football managers. It's the same, and they've got like millions of people believing that this messiah or whatever, and it's very hard not to believe that narrative.
And what can they do to get away from that?
It's hard because, like I say, when the season starts, you're consumed by it. It takes all of your energy. And even me now, like I'm part-time at Burnley, I already feel like my energy is like it's being sucked into the vortex. Yeah. And anyone that works in football knows this. Like it consumes your whole energy. So for a manager, it's very difficult. And yeah, a lot of the work is just trying to have like a tiny little bit of balance. And like I said, taking one step towards something other than that. So with a lot of managers and even business people that I work with, I'm trying to get them to not be workaholics so much, at least, and not stay in the office until 7 o'clock every day, and not get in the office at 6 o'clock every day. Because if you do that, you are that person 100%.
And does that end up having a negative impact on the business, do you think?
Definitely, yeah. Because let's talk about managers, for example. When it comes to a Saturday, when they really need to be at their best, they've not managed their energy well during the week, they're knackered. And they're not exactly how they need to be in that moment. Business leaders the same. You can't make good decisions when you're sleep deprived and when your energy is totally consumed by one thing. So with business people, I always encourage them to take breaks, yeah, so go away, have holidays and stuff like that, but also work out ways where you can have space in your schedule. And to be honest, this is how I help people, but I'm struggling with that right now myself because I've got no space. So I need to
work
out my own shit.
Yeah, but it's difficult to do that, isn't it? Is it because you've got opportunities that you want to say yes to and that are good for you, and then I guess at some stage you have to say, well, actually, then that's going to have to stop now.
Yeah, but you have to prioritize it. It's about how much of your life are you allowed, prepared to give away.
Yeah.
Because for me, for example, I've started to feel like I should start writing more.
Like a book or just writing,
well, not
journaling?
Even, just start something. I want some sort of creative outlet. Not even thinking as grandly as a book, but just start writing in some way, and just take a small step. That's how I'll start, and then see what happens. But I need to prioritize that and make space for that, and that's the thing. Because that's, like you said, this is a creative outlet for you, which is so important. Part of my work, I feel, is very creative, and I love that. But this is another creative part that I want to itch.
Something that I think I've asked you in the past, but how challenging is it for you when you're working with people and essentially it's, whether it's not therapy but you're listening to a lot of trauma or problems. How hard is it, how taxing is that on you?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No. It's the opposite. Because I always wanted to set on my life so that I would do something that was automatically making me be present. And if I'm not present when I'm doing my job, I'm not doing my job. So it's a great way of just bringing me into the present. And when I am in the present, it's nothing. It energizes me. It doesn't take it away. It's the things in between that are more difficult because of all the other stuff you need to do when you're a business owner. Admin, taxes, all of it. Yeah, and even I was thinking walking here today. So I was in Gales, and you text me and said, "Oh yeah." So I thought, right, I've got 15 minutes, and I was like, right, I want to go to Waterstones to buy you this book that I'm reading because it's so good. But I felt like I didn't have quite enough time, and I felt like I wanted to get you a gift for being a new father. But I feel like I don't have enough time to do those things. And we've spoken before about Unreasonable Hospitality, which is such a great book. Yeah. And I'm not doing enough of that right now.
You want it, yes, and that's something that you want a bit, you want to be that person.
Yeah. I should have got you that book. I should have prioritized more time to get you that book. I'll send it to you anyway.
but no, I feel no. So right away, I'm thinking, well, no, that's dead generous. So you shouldn't do that. But that's not explaining. We've spoke about this. So me saying, oh, you shouldn't do that, but you wanting to do that are two different things, I guess. I get this a lot because I pride myself on being generous, and people say, oh, you shouldn't do that, or you don't have to do that. But it's not about them, it's about me wanting to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So explain that a little, because you've explained this to me before, and you put it better than I can.
Well, I don't know. So I had an impulse that I wanted to do this thing for you, a small thing, obviously. But also that principle of unreasonable hospitality really resonated with me. And you like some of the things in that book where their whole thing was about making it an experience for people where it changed their lives and made it an experience that they remembered forever. And that was their whole purpose and that mission. And my, like every session that I have, my purpose is to change that person's life. And yeah, so the impulse arose in me to do this thing, which I was thinking about you, and I try as much as I can to express that. Yeah, I've not said exactly what you've asked me to say.
No, I think, yeah, thereabouts. I think everything we spoke about is kind of really good points on what people can do, but like just explain to me how important the consistency of doing something is. Is that the most important thing?
It is the most important thing, but I don't want people to get bogged down in that, because sometimes it can feel overwhelming, you know. So, for example, my wife, she doesn't really like the ice bath, and yesterday she went in the ice bath for 4 minutes, and she volunteered to go in, and so at the end I was like, oh, well done. And then I said, right, I challenge you to go in every day for a week, and if after a week you don't want to continue, fine, but challenge. And immediately her guard went up, and the resistance was like, no, you're not telling me what to do.
Yeah.
You should be praising me for doing this. I was like, I did. I said, well done.
Yeah.
So like she actually went in today, which was great, and maybe she's going to take the challenge. But it's more about one step at a time and thinking about, in this day, what are you going to do? And then it is about consistency, and keep doing that. But don't get too hung up on it. Like,
I don't think I've got to do this for a year. Exactly.
And even if you do it for 4 days and you miss one day, like a lot of people then, like in their heads, they're like, right, that's it, I've finished. Like, I broke the pattern, that's it, I'm done. But the important thing is coming back, doing it again. But I think everyone knows where they need to go and what work they need to do on themselves.
You think they know that?
In some way they do. The seeds are always there, but it's about not distracting yourself and paying attention to those seeds, and then starting to do that work, but just in small steps every day. But it also depends what you want. Like, yeah, what do you want from life? Do you want to just have a comfortable life where you're sitting there relaxing, not challenging yourself?
No, some people do, don't they? Like, some people do want that. Or do you not think they do?
I think they do.
Is that a defense mechanism to say, well, I don't want to do that?
Yeah. And also, like, we feel like we're seeking comfort, but it's comfort that is the thing that kind of makes us feel less fulfilled than anything else. And it's like, it comes back to the business person who their desire is to sell the business. They start a business, right? I'm going to sell it. Then I'll be happy, then I'll be able to relax. And they get to that point and they're most miserable they've ever been in their life, because they've got no purpose and they're not working towards something, and they're not getting to know about themselves or challenge themselves.
Yeah, challenging. I think that's the people that I know, or some people that I know that have sold a business, and they lose that purpose, and that's the whole, that it was the purpose that was driving, not the shiny medal at the end.
Yeah.
And then when they lose that purpose, they're lost, because they've got nothing to get out of bed for, or nothing that challenges them.
Yeah. But I think the thing that they're actually missing isn't the actual vehicle or the thing that they're doing. It's the fact that they're working on themselves, because it forces them to work on themselves and learn things about themselves to get there. That's the thing that they're really missing.
Tell me about the, is it Maslow's, the hierarchy of needs?
Yeah. I don't know that so well.
No, what's the one that you've told me though, where it's what drives
the 6 universal human needs?
Yes, that's it.
6 universal human drives. So Tony Robbins spoke about this, and it's like, I'm always looking out for it, because when people tell me that they're driven by this or that, I'll ask people what drives you, and they'll usually say money or freedom or something like that. It's always these 6 things if you look down to it. So the first 2 are certainty. So people are often driven by financial certainty. And then the opposite of that is uncertainty. And most, if not all, entrepreneurs are driven by uncertainty. and they're aiming for certainty. So they'll sell the business and then they'll be happy. Because uncertainty is their biggest driver, that's why they're miserable.
Because they've gone for certainty.
Yes, exactly. And then the next two are love and connection. And that, in this frame, it means that you want to be similar to other people so that you are like in a group and feel connected to them. Because if you're not, then you get rejected by the group. And then the opposite of that is significance. And significance means kind of stepping out of the group and doing something out of the normal from your group, which I guess you're doing. And then the final two are growth and contribution. And contribution is a big one, where people who sell their business, that is the thing that they're lacking the most. Because when you've got a business, you're contributing to many people's lives in so many ways, like the customers, the people who work for you, everything. And then that suddenly stops, and they start to look for ways of contributing. And a lot of billionaires have signed this new treaty where they give it all away.
Yeah.
And try and contribute to society. Because ultimately that's, whenever I ask people what they really want or what they really love about what they do, it's always about helping other people. That's what it comes down to.
So when they lose the business, they lose that vehicle to help other people.
Yeah.
And how hard is it what are some of the ways they can do that post-selling the business then?
Well, I feel like me, in terms of football, you need a little bit of a transition phase where you work through all of the stuff that you've kind of left, and you kind of mourn the loss of that business. Because like the business, often they'll say it's like my child.
Yeah.
And it often feels like that. Maybe in a lot of cases way more important than their child, and they in many cases spend a lot more time there than with their child.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true for
No,
you.
not for me. Grace. Sorry.
Yeah, so you work through that period, and then it's starting to think about, right, what do you want to do now? And what is going to fulfill all of these needs, and how can you use whatever you've gained from what you've done to impact more people and help more people? Because it's helping more people that's going to make you feel more alive and happy.
And those 6 needs, they need to identify which is actually driving them, and then work on that.
So we're all driven by all 6, but
at different levels.
Yeah, and at some times we'll be lacking one more than the other. And growth is another big one, because a lot of people don't pay attention to that, and that for me is the biggest part of my life. And it was, like we said, it was kind of subconsciously implanted because of my dad and the way he was when he was young. But I'm so grateful for it. And and a lot of people, because they're so like thinking about and driven by whatever the thing is, they miss out on that bit. And
that's kind of the blind spot, the growth.
Yeah.
But growth, going back to, is challenging yourself and getting out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Something else that you've helped at Hybrid, which was kind of a bit transformational, I guess, in what we do, is feedback. To just explain to, I don't know whether you remember, but you said that honest feedback is a gift. That was a Danny line. So explain to us like what that means and why that's so important in life, I guess.
Yeah, so when you're in a group, obviously, like there's individual growth and there's ways that you can work on yourself. But when you're in a group, the thing that often is lost is real, honest feedback, because you don't want to upset other people in the group and you don't want to be rejected by the group. So it's that fear of rejection that kind of stops it. But the only way to really grow as a group is to encourage that direct feedback. And I was lucky to learn that I did many courses, as you know, but one was through the Institute of Group Analysis. And the whole point of it was to go in and learn things about yourself and getting feedback from the group. And yeah, so I told you about one experience I had there, didn't I? So I don't know if I should say it. No, I can't say it because you're not supposed to speak about what happens in the group. But I was frustrated at the time because of the lack of feedback. I was craving feedback. I wanted it.
Yeah.
I wanted to meet that. Like, I remember I was in the master's degree I did before the group analysis. I was in a group, and it was funny. At the end of so it was called an experiential group, and basically we didn't know what it was. We walk into this group. There's 12 chairs, or maybe 12 chairs. There's 11 of us master's students, and then the person walks in who's the facilitator and sits within the group and doesn't say a word. We don't know what this experiential group is, none of it. And people like get anxious because there's no fixed idea of what's going to happen in this group. So at the end of the group, I felt like there wasn't enough aliveness in the group. I felt like we were all like working through our defenses, and I'd hardly said a word. And someone said to me, what's going on for you? You've not spoken. And I said, to be honest, I'm bored. Like there's not enough aliveness in this group. And for whatever reason, a couple of people in the group took it personally, and it wasn't personal. It was the whole group. And one of them had quite an emotional response. And then they started giving me feedback. And one of them said, I don't know, but I'll never forget it. But she said, because I was like, why have everyone had this like such a strong response? And someone said, you've got a strong face. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. What does that mean? But that's feedback, and that helped me learn about myself and that boundary.
Yeah.
So in any group, it's so important. And as businesses get bigger, it's harder to keep hold of that feedback. And I learned about a lot through the No Rules Netflix book.
Yeah.
And that, like, the way they've implemented feedback, it's very, like...
It's radical,
harsh.
In it?
Yeah,
like,
radical.
As well.
Yeah. But it feels like a great thing. And obviously it takes courage to give and receive feedback. But there's one thing I've been thinking about lately like people always think about that feedback in terms of challenging feedback, and often they forget the opposite. And for any good marriage to sustain itself, there should be at least 6 or 7 positives for every negative.
Yeah.
And it's the same in any organization or group. So it's important that business owners don't forget that bit as well.
Yeah, and I think you've got to lead with it and mean it. I think that's the thing that I noticed when we tried to do it at first, and unless you're 100% in, then you can't expect people to be honest with the feedback. Yeah. Because it's tough for them, I guess, to give open feedback or criticism, although they don't call it that in the book, but it's essentially that's what you're asking for, like, give me some criticism. Yeah. That's tough, and unless you're 100% behind it and willing to accept whatever. Yeah. Like, I remember the first time I did it, I kind of bit back a little bit, and then had to, I shouldn't have done that. You need to get better at wearing it.
Exactly. Yeah, so, like, and you have to understand, like, there's ways of doing it. It's not just like, oh...
Give us some feedback.
Because that will go disastrously wrong.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right in terms of hierarchy as well, because people often would never give it to their boss. And for obvious reasons, like you might get sacked. So you have to create a culture where there's psychological safety and also a culture of high performance. And this culture of high performance, feedback is a significant part of it. And what you said about being the leader and leading from the front with it, the guy at Netflix, Reed Hastings, he was the founder. He stood on stage at their annual meeting, and there was thousands of people, and he said, right, give me feedback. And nobody did. Yeah. So he had to work on ways of getting them to actually give it to him. Yeah. And he started by making it anonymous. But he felt like that wasn't good enough. Yeah. Because it's not, like, it needs to be more direct. And it's not an easy thing. Like, a lot of people go to work just to, like, pay the bills. They're not bothered about feedback, and they don't want to grow.
They don't care either way.
No. So if it's part of your culture, then people have to know that coming in. Yeah.
But also, going back to one of the points you made before, is that not your job to unlock within that person who says they don't, the person who says they don't want anything out of it, it's not really true, is it? Like, they want something, it just might not be aligned to what your business is doing.
Yeah. And also, obviously, a lot of people have got trauma that they've not kind of worked through. So that might be the thing that's blocking them. So there might be a need to work on that, and then they'll be more open. But they have to know that your culture is this type of culture when they come in.
And that's difficult, I guess. I know that it's hard to set what your culture out is, because it's a competitive market, and
exactly, yeah.
To put yourself out there and say, this is what we're about. So if you're not aligned with this, then don't bother coming in when you need employees. Is tough.
Yeah, it's very difficult. But I feel like if you are very clear on your culture and are consistent with it over time, you're going to start to attract the right people, and it will grow. But it's the same in football. You know, like young players, clubs are desperate to get them, so they'll do anything to get them. They'll send limousines to drive them to training every day, give them the best food and all of this. It's not the best thing for young players.
No.
But they're competing for them so much. It's hard to create a culture of what they actually need.
Yeah, and also that's not, if they're doing that type of stuff, it probably isn't the culture of the club, but they're doing it to impress them. So it's coming from the wrong place, I guess, and you're selling them something that isn't aligned to the culture of the club. Yeah,
although I would say, like most Premier League clubs now, like the first team players, that is the culture.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like they've even that's not the best thing, but they've earned it and they've got there, whereas they're kind of applying the same principles to 5-year-olds.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And like obviously they're in formative years of their life. It's not a good thing for them.
No.
But you can't turn around and say, right, this is the hard knocks club. You won't get any players.
Yeah, it's difficult. I guess it's just the same problems on a bigger scale for anyone trying to employ someone, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So just to approach the end now, if it's called Raise the Floor, and it's trying to learn what ways we can increase our baseline or lift our baseline to perform better in our lives. Like, what are a couple of takeaways that you can give people to help them raise the floor?
So fear is a big one. Recognizing what your biggest fear is. So for me, it was public speaking. That's the best thing I ever did. And it's noticing the subtle signs within you about what that fear is and where you need to go. And with all my clients, if they say I'm afraid of this or I'm afraid of making this decision, I'm like, right, that's it. Bingo. Yeah. That's where you need to go. It's where you'll learn the most about yourself, and it's where you'll get the actual freedom. Not like you're not going to get freedom by being rich. You're not going to get freedom by having a huge house. You're going to get freedom by working on these seeds of things that are within you. And like I said earlier, I feel like most people know that they're there. Most people have got a vague idea of that.
A feeling
there.
or...
Yes. So it's about being aware of it, recognizing it, tuning into it maybe a little bit more, and then taking the step. Just take that step. Action. Action is the big one.
Yeah. Amazing. I appreciate you. You're dead busy, and you've given me time to be our second guest. So thank you very much.
I've loved it. It's been my favourite.
Ever?
Yeah, I've just been so relaxed.
Amazing. I'm learning from you. Brilliant.